The spider exercise we're going to work on looks like this. Scott Tennant, in his excellent book, Pumping Nylon, shows the spider exercise beginning at the first fret and crawling up the neck. And on up, to the end of the neck here. Now, what I like to do is begin at the 7th fret actually and work down, because as you notice, the frets are closer together up here. They widen as you descend to the 1st fret. So the way I think about it is, if you're using this as a warm-up exercise, or for this exercise really is for at the late beginning stage or early intermediate stage of playing, you want to make it start a little bit easier, especially as a warm-up exercise. Start where it's easier and then work to where it's more difficult. In other words, start where the frets are closer together, where things can be reached more easily, and then you gradually stretch the hand out as you descend to the 1st fret where the frets are far apart. Okay? It's not bad to start at the 1st fret and go up to the 7th, 8th, 9th fret, whatever. But I think it's actually a little bit better to start up here. So that's the way I teach it. Now, I teach it starting at the 7th fret, because starting a little higher than that, we start to have problems dealing with the guitar getting in the way here of the hand position. So rather than having to deal with that, I start at the 7th fret where that's not an issue, and we're have a clear shot at execution here in this area of the neck. Now, another thing I think you should consider, again, when I work on this with a student who's never done this before, again, we're talking late beginner or early intermediate stage, rather than doing the exercise on the 2nd string and the 5th strings, like that, start on the 2nd string and the 4th string. The reason for that is the stretches are a little bit easier at first. So now, if the student has big hands, doesn't have any problem with reaches and that kind of thing, then sure, you can start with the 2nd string and the 5th string. But for most, I would say starting with the 2nd string and the 4th string is the way to go. It's just less stress on the hand. Because again, if someone hasn't done this before, it is definitely a challenge for sure. So try it on the 2nd string and the 4th string. Now, you're really not going to practice the entire spider. In other words, you're not going to start here and work your way down for a while. As you're going to see here, we're going to take this step by step to really learn it well. So it may be several days, very possibly for most several weeks before you're going to play the entire exercise, working your way down the neck. So be patient with it. Again, we don't want to force things too much. We don't want to hurt our hand. Although it's, as long as you don't overdo it, it's not something that's going to really hurt your hand in most cases. It's not that high stress a thing. It does require some stretching, absolutely, but if you do it slowly and carefully, that's actually good for your hand. You're stretching out your hand. That's one of the purposes of the spider exercise, and let's talk about that. For a player who's mastered the spider, who plays it pretty well, they're going to start on the 2nd string and the 5th string and do this every day and do the entire thing starting at the 7th fret and working down to the 1st fret, because it's a great stretch exercise to warm up the hand gradually. Again, that idea of going from the small frets to the larger frets. But for the beginning guitarist or intermediate guitarist who's just trying to master this for the first time, we're using it more for the purpose of finger independence and finger synchronicity. In other words, synchronizing finger movements that are very difficult to do. That's our primary purpose to begin with, is synchronizing the changes rather than working on stretching or warming up the hand. So let's look at it step by step. Our strategy here is to work on each change individually, one at a time. In fact, we would spend a lesson a week working on just one change. For a player who has better coordination, a little more advanced, we might do 2 changes in 1 week. But for many students, just working on one change a week is plenty. So here I am, I'm at the 7th fret with my first finger. Again, we're starting in the upper regions of the neck where the frets are close together, where this is easier to play. So the first change is the first finger and the 3rd fingers, and notice too, I'm starting on the 2nd string and the 4th string to make this easier. Our first change is the first 3rd fingers to the 2nd and 4th fingers, like that. So that's the change we're going to focus on. But we're not even going to do that yet. The first thing you want to do is hold chord number 1, the 1st finger and the 3rd finger, and simply place and lift chord number 2 as you're holding chord number 1. Don't lift chord number 1. Just place and lift the 2nd and 4th fingers. Okay? Now, looking at it from a little different angle. So as you're looking at it, here's what it's going to look like from your position. You're going to hold chord number 1 on the 2nd string and the 4th string, and then you're going to place and lift 2nd and 4th fingers, keeping chord 1 down. Now your goal on this stage of learning is to get these 2 fingers, the 2nd finger and the 4th finger, to land together on the strings. What's going to tend to happen is the 2nd finger will land first and then the little finger like that. And then they won't lift together either. So you've got to just carefully place together and lift together. The other thing that will tend to happen too is when you lift, you'll tend to lift up the chord number 1. This is all about finger independence here. Finger independence and also synchronizing these 2 landing together on their strings. Now, for those 2 to land together on the strings, the other important ingredient is preparation. You don't want your little finger way over here over the 1st string when it's got to land on the 4th string. And the 2nd finger, you don't want way over here on the basses if it's got to land on the 2nd string. So make sure you have both fingers prepared precisely above their string and both fingers the same height above the string. What's going to tend to happen? Little finger's going to be up higher above the string than the 2nd finger, and therefore when you try to put them down together, the little finger's going to be late. So make sure that little finger is the same height above the string as the 2nd finger. Ideally about no more than 1/4 of an inch above the string. Okay? So again, place, lift, place, lift until you can easily do that, keeping chord 1 down and getting the 2 fingers to fall together onto their strings. Okay? Then you reverse it. You place chord number 2, and by the way, don't try and practice this, as with so many other exercises, for too long at a time. It'll get worse rather than getting better. Rest, shake out your hand, and wait a minute or 2, and then come back to it. So next stage is place chord number 2 down, leave it down, and place and lift chord number 1. Like that. I have to say most people probably find that easier to do. Maybe not. Everybody's different. But again, the goal is for the two fingers to land together and to lift together. What will tend to happen, first finger might land a little before the third finger, like that. So just pay attention. Oh, I should say too, let's go back to the first one. If you have a lot of trouble with your little finger not wanting to land simultaneously with the second finger, if he's always late, intentionally put the little finger down first and then the second finger to undo his tendency to be late. And that will usually help if you do it so you're placing the little finger first on purpose for a day or two, then you'll gain the control to actually place him together with the other finger. Okay? And the same thing applies here. If your third finger is consistently late landing, then put the third finger down first intentionally to undo their natural tendency. And after a day or two, they'll be able to land together. And once again, finger preparation, make sure each finger is above the proper string, no more than 1/4 of an inch above the string. Thumb position, you'll notice, is opposite in between the first finger and second finger, not off to the left, not way over to the right. I doubt if anybody would want to do that. But some of you might tend to put that thumb off to the left too far. Keep it opposite the first and second fingers in general. And of course, behind the neck, don't come around like this or you're asking for a lot of trouble. So keep it behind there. Now, once you can do the touch, then you can actually play if you want. Hold chord 1 and place chord 2, keeping chord 1 down. Go ahead and play those. This step is not absolutely necessary, but can't hurt. And then reverse it. Once again, hold chord 2, placing and lifting chord 1. Now you'll notice nothing changes on the pitches because you're holding chord 2 down as you're placing chord 1. But still, it can be a good exercise to do. Okay, so we have held chord 1, place, lift, chord 2. Of course, it's an interval, not a chord, but we're going to call it a chord anyway. Okay, and then hold chord 2, place and lift chord 1. Now, once you can do that, you may be able to do that right off the bat. It may take you a day or two before you can do that. It may take longer. Everybody's different. But the next step, still not playing anything, you notice, with the right hand. I'm still not plucking the strings. This is totally left hand alone. The next step is hold chord 1 and change. Actually do the change back and forth between chord 1 and chord 2. Lift chord 1 as you place chord 2. Lift chord 2 as you place chord 1. Notice once again, finger preparation, extremely important. I keep those fingers right above the proper string and I don't lift far away. I'm not doing this with my little finger, letting him fly out because then he'll have a hard time getting back where he belongs on the string. I'm barely lifting off the string, no more than 1/4 of an inch, so that they land and lift together. Okay? Then, finally, you get to play something. You can play the string and the fourth string with the thumb and finger. I would alternate P-I, P-M on the right hand. The challenge here is left hand, right hand coordination, making sure you pluck and change the left hand finger at the same time. Do not place the fingers and then pluck. Place fingers and then pluck. You've got to pluck and place simultaneously. For some people, it works to forget rhythm and to think of it like this. You play chord 1, prepare, ready, get set, go. Ready, get set, go. Ready, get set, go. That helps sync everything up. For others, you can use a metronome at a very slow tempo and practice changing and plucking right on the tick of the metronome. Whatever works for you. But those are the basic steps for learning that first chord change. And you use that same process throughout the spider to learn the whole thing. So once you've done chord 1 to chord 2, you can see why you may want to spend a whole week on just one chord, or at least several days, because it takes a lot of repetition, some time. Then you'll focus on chord 2 to 3. So those pairs of strings. And again, the steps would be hold chord 2, place and lift chord 3, left hand alone. Make sure the two fingers land together. Then hold chord 3, place and lift chord 2, left hand alone, over and over again. Make sure that little finger lands precisely with the second finger. And it's okay, don't worry if the little finger touches the third string a little bit here. That's all right. You basically want to be on the tips of the fingers, but you don't need to be on the very, very, very tips of the fingers. And my first finger is actually blocking off the third string and the second string. I'm not arched up on the very tip. Don't worry about that. So again, you'll do the chord 2 to chord 3, working place, lift, and then place, lift. All right. Again, once you've done the touch exercise, you can actually play, keeping chord 2 down, adding chord 3. Do both hands. And then with chord 3 down, place and lift, chord 2. Again, not absolutely necessary to do, but I think it can be good practice. Good for coordination. Then left hand alone, actually do the change. Notice I put the fingers down fairly forcefully too. You hear the multiphonics. In other words, you hear when I put this finger down, you're hearing that note behind the finger when you hammer on there. Anyway, so don't worry about that. So finally, then you're sitting there doing the actual change. Chord 2, chord 3. Once you get the feel of that they're all landing together, working together, then you can play that change. Back and forth. Once again, make sure the hands are synchronized. You're playing the left hand or the right hand is plucking exactly as the left hand makes its change, not before. And just continue through each change in the same manner. Left hand alone, hold a chord, place the next chord, reverse it, then left hand alone, actually play the change, and then finally both hands together. You're going to find that some changes are more difficult than others. For instance, chord 5 to chord 6, going from here to here, that's pretty hard for most people. And once again, same strategy though. You hold chord 5 and then place and lift chord 6. Hold chord 6, place and lift chord 5. And then left hand alone, do the change. And then finally play the actual change. But that's a tough one. But again, point is, same principles apply. Make sure your fingers are prepared precisely above their string, not too high above the string, no more than 1/4 of an inch, and that they're landing together when you're placing them. And then we add the right hand, that everything's synced up, that you pluck exactly as your left hand fingers move. Once you've done all those changes individually, then it's time to put them all together. So we start off notice what's happening as I'm playing chord 1, I have chord 2 prepared right above the strings. As I play chord 2, I pull the fingers into position for chord 3. The third finger went from here to the fourth string over to the second string above the second string. The first finger went from on the second string to above the fourth string. There they go. They switch positions. See that? And that's what you've got to do. You don't think about the chord you're playing. You think about the next chord you're going to play. You prepare for it. So these two fingers are prepared above their strings. I set them on there. And then the fingers I just lifted, they pull reverse positions. Little finger goes to the second string. Second finger goes to the fourth string. Voila, there it goes. Like that. And then I'm prepared for my next change. Prepare, prepare. So I'm always one step ahead of myself. Playing chord 1, I'm preparing chord 2. As I play chord 2, I'm preparing chord 3. As I play chord 3, preparing chord 4. As I play chord 4, I'm preparing chord 5. As I play chord 5, I'm preparing chord 6. As I play chord 6, I'm preparing chord 7, which is the same as 1, incidentally. Okay? And you go slowly. You won't necessarily play like that. It may be more like this. It may be like play chord 1. Okay, come on, fingers, get into position for chord 2. Okay, got them. All right. Now, okay, fingers move. Get over there to chord 3. All right. And they may wiggle around a little bit. So you got to, pull them, push them until they're stable, and then go for it. Boom. Great, chord 4. Come on, baby. Get over there. That's what it's going to be like at first. All right? So don't worry about playing in rhythm or anything. Pay attention to the preparation of the fingers. Very slow. And our goal is to produce, I should have said this long ago, but our goal is to play legato, to connect these changes. We do not want that ain't it, okay? We want smooth, sustained. Constantly ringing, no dead space between the chords. All right? Then it's just a matter, once you've done the whole cycle, and again, I'm at the 7th fret, then you move down a fret and repeat. And of course, once again, as we move down towards the 1st fret, the frets get wider apart, so it becomes a little more challenging to prepare the fingers and to stretch from chord to chord to keep it legato. So once you've done all those steps on the 2nd string and the 4th string, holding chord number 1, placing and lifting chord number 2, left hand alone, then holding chord 2, placing and lifting chord number 1, left hand alone, then possibly holding chord 1 and playing them, holding chord 1, placing and lifting chord 2, and then reversing, holding chord 2, placing and lifting chord 1 and playing that, and then doing the actual change. Going through every change like that, all those steps. Then, as I said, you can work your way, you can walk down the neck. Where it becomes more and more difficult to descend towards the 1st fret with the greater stretches. Then once you've done that, you can graduate to the 2nd string and the 5th string. Going through all the steps. Once again, you would hold chord 1, place and lift chord 2. This is much more difficult because you're doing 2nd string and 5th string. The reaches are much wider, so it's going to be more difficult for you. And then once again, hold chord 2, place, lift chord 1. Slowly, Doug. There we go. And then holding chord 1, you're actually playing that if you want. Holding chord 1, placing chord 2. Holding chord 2, placing chord 1. the change for real. Left hand alone first. And then playing. And going through every change like that. Now, again, some of these changes are going to be, some of the chord changes will be much more difficult than others. The difficult ones, of course, you'll want to focus on a little bit more. And then, once you can do all that, each individual change, then try the entire sequence in 7th position, first finger at the 7th fret. Again, your goal is not to play fast, it's to play legato, connecting every change. Once you can do that at the 7th fret, then you're free to start walking down the neck towards the 1st fret. Once again, those changes will become more and more difficult as you descend towards the 1st fret. The stretches become wider. Now, theoretically, once you have done the 2nd string and the 5th string, you could do the 2nd string and the 6th string. Stretches are even wider. And then ultimately, 1st string and 6th string. I don't do that. It's kind of silly. Some of these stretches are really tough. I don't bother with that one, but if you like a challenge, you certainly could. Again, one of our other goals is not to hurt our hand either. So, don't overdo these things. Easy does it. Now, if you wanted to, eventually you could go ahead and try and play these fast, but that's not the point. The point is to connect your changes, to play them smoothly. So focus on that. And again, start with the 2nd string and 4th string changes, and then graduate after a few weeks or months, whatever it may take you, graduate to the 2nd string and the 5th string. Happy spidering. Now, some of my students have told me they find it valuable to practice the spider on a table or on the back of their guitar, like I'm showing you now, doing the finger combinations like this. And you'll notice I don't have my wrist resting or any part of my hand resting on the guitar. I have it up off the guitar and the thumb is also off the guitar. So the total weight of the hand and the arm is on the spider's legs as it's walking. So that's it. Like I said, for some of my students, they say that's very, very helpful to them. And then you can also do the steps. You could hold this pair of legs down, place and lift that pair of legs, focusing on them landing together. It's real easy to feel when you do it on a flat surface like that. It's real easy to feel whether they're landing together. And then reversing. Hold that 2nd pair of fingers down, place and lift the 1st pair of legs, spider legs. And then walk it. You can actually, amuse your kids, you can actually have the spider walk forward like that. Okay? So try that out, see if that's helpful for you.